Welcome back to another week of Instigating with Clarkie and Drury. I am Drury. That's Clarkie. We are brought to you as always by CoolBet, our friends at the Listowel Squash Courts, and See the Game in the Listowel Vision Center. We are very pleased to be joined by one of our great friends, a special guest here, Erik Tomas of Raceline Radio. ET, how are you, brother?
We're good. We're good. There's all kinds of drama in my sport. I don't know about what you guys are going to talk about, but there's enough junk going on in mine to last you 5 years.
Well, I don't know that we've got 5 years on this show, but we've got a good chunk of time set aside here, and let's just dig right in. The Formula One season ending in probably the most dramatic fashion maybe ever, and certainly dripped in controversy. Max Verstappen, my guy, I mean, I am happy about that. Wins his first ever F1 title, just edging out Sir Lewis Hamilton, knighted the other day. And boy, ET, the end of the race, let's just start there because that's what everybody was talking about, that last lap and the lead up to it. What the hell happened on Sunday? What happened?
There are people still asking what happened, and I don't think I totally understand what happened, and I don't think Toto Wolff at Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton know what happened. We do know what happened is that Michael Massey, the race director, decided to interpret the rule book, in my estimation, the wrong way, an unfair way, artificially manipulated the finish of that race to allow Max Verstappen and Red Bull something he wasn't able to do on his own on the racetrack in the previous 57 laps, and that's catch and pass Lewis Hamilton to take away his chance at a record-shattering 8th championship to give him his first championship. I have always been a fan of letting races evolve naturally. And the only fair way, there's two ways that race should have been ended fairly. One isn't very popular because it seems that nowadays modern race fans lose their erections when races end under yellow. Yet we've been doing that for generations, long before any of us were on the face of this earth. And less than 2% of any automobile race anywhere even ends under yellow. But now you got to have this artificial manipulation to try and get a one-lap shootout. Really? A championship this good all year comes down to one lap? The other fair way was to finish the race the way those cars were aligned on the racetrack. Lewis leading 5 to 7 cars in between him and Max Verstappen, who's trying to catch them. They announced they weren't going to remove the lap cars. Then suddenly after, Christian Horner from Red Bull gets on the radio with the race director, which is a dumb rule to begin with, and says, we got to get rid of these lap cars. Give me a minute. All of a sudden, they're gone. And all of a sudden, the pathway is clear. All the barricades are removed from Verstappen. He's right there. Lewis is on old tires, which is superfluous at this point. And they manipulated the finish. Lewis, in my mind, in my opinion, in my experience, got robbed. He got robbed blatantly, and he didn't win the championship. Okay. Max wins the championship. Okay. Mercedes I thought they were going to appeal this to the FIA, the highest court in the auto racing land, but decided for the good of the sport not to, because Ross Brawn, who runs Formula One on the competition side, and Formula One is going to institute a tribunal to investigate this and take away those idiotic gray areas in the rule book to stop anyone from artificially manipulating a finish. To me, it was grossly unfair. And yeah, Verstappen won the championship and had a great, great season. But for a season like this, so important, with a worldwide audience exploding in popularity because of the Netflix series, and you end it like that? You've got to be kidding me, man. I mean, Max deserved better. Lewis deserved better. The fans deserved better. And the sponsorship community deserved better as well. I did not like the way they ended it. Verstappen is the 2021 Formula One World Driving Champion. But to me, there's a little invisible asterisk beside it because I don't think he won it fair and square.
So ET, why did they do it? Did they just do it to make it so 1 versus 2 last lap? Let's make it exciting. Like, is that the bottom line? Is that why they did it?
And Michael Massey hasn't explained why he decided to do it that way, because the way the rules are written, he could do that. And earlier in the season, he did it the other way. So the rules shouldn't be so gray that it's open to a race director's interpretation. It was unfair, and NASCAR does it, and I hate it. IndyCar does it, and I hate it. If that's the way the cars are lined up on the racetrack, that's the way the race has evolved. And here's the ironic thing. Massey said to those guys, don't crash each other out. Don't do something unfair. Don't do something unsportsmanlike. Win it on the racetrack. I guess he forgot his own directive, and Formula One forgot about it too. It wasn't decided on the racetrack. It was decided hours later in the boardroom with a bunch of shirts and ties who decided to go for the dramatic finish that, to me, was patently unfair.
And correct me if I'm wrong, Verstappen pitted on that last lap, or before the last lap, to get fresh tires. Yeah. Hamilton stayed out knowing there was 6 or 7 cars in between them, right?
That's why he didn't pit. And
that's what I mean. Yeah.
I remember during the telecast, and that's one good thing that I like, is when you can hear the drivers talking to their team. I don't like having to hear Christian Horner and Toto Wolff talking to the RD and trying to badger him into doing things. I don't like that part of it. But Lewis says, are we not going to come in for tires? He says, Lewis, it's a bigger gamble to do that. We don't want to relinquish track position.
Right.
And that's why he didn't come in. But if you're leading and a crash happens with 5 laps to go, you could be on the damn rims and finish that race. I wouldn't care how worn out his tires were. If they had left those lapped cars in between them, there's no chance that Verstappen would have caught him in the restart of that race.
Yeah.
So, they first announced everybody and that we're not going to remove the lap cars. Okay, fine. Restart it the way it is. All of a sudden, no, we're removing them. And next thing you know, here's the thing. There were 7 lap cars. They only told 5 of them on the radio to move around Lewis and unlap themselves. Why didn't they tell all 7 cars? To me, somebody in race control doesn't know what the hell they're doing. And that to me is massively disappointing.
It is disappointing. And I mean, again, coming at it from an angle of bias, because I like Max. He's kind of the guy I've latched on to.
I like Max too, but he didn't win it fair. Didn't wear it fair. It wasn't his fault. And that's the thing too. It's not his fault. And it's not Red Bull's fault.
Right.
It's the race director's fault.
It is. And that's sad too, because people are saying, oh, well, his championship is tainted. I don't think that that's fair to say on his behalf. He raced under what the director told him to do.
That's right.
But the issue is that the race director, and Michael Massey, should resign. Because Michael Massey all year long, and there are other people up there with him, and they should all resign, but he's the face of it. He should resign because, like you said, earlier in the year when there were other instances like this, he went the other way and maintained rule. I believe that the article that they were constantly bringing up at the end, Martin Brundle and the guys, was article 48.9, whatever. There's a bajillion pages in this book. I know it's too thick. That's too thick for motor racing. I think Formula One is supposed to be the peak of motor racing. It's way too complicated for people to understand. Then you have all these gray areas where one race he does it like this, and then in the final race he does it like this. So that's problem number 1. And Max's championship for me is legitimate. The way it happened sucks, but he deserved to win in, albeit an inferior car, and I'm proud of him for doing that, but there were a lot of wonky things that happened in that race. Let's talk about the start, because Lewis had at one point an 11-second lead on Max with not very many laps left. I believe there was 13 laps, and Max had fresher hards and was not going to be able to catch him.
That's
Too much dirty air.
That's right.
And Lewis gained that off of what some people were calling an unfair advantage when Max dove inside of him at turn 6 and forced Lewis to go off.
That's right.
Into a flat paved runoff area, which a lot of people have an issue with at these tracks. And he came back on the track way, way, way ahead of where he was. What was your impression of that incident? And should Lewis have given Max the spot back, because Lewis was going to lose first place at that turn?
It was determined that the amount of time and seconds he gained by going off and coming back on again. The rule states, I believe, that you cannot gain a position on the racetrack by leaving the dimensions of the racetrack. Okay. So, so they determined, and I don't know whether I necessarily agreed with it, because earlier in the season, other people were penalized for doing exactly the same thing, but Lewis wasn't penalized. I want to go back to your point about this being a very simple sport and having a rule book that's way too thick and way too complicated and way too convoluted. The name of the game in our sport is to be faster than the other guys and beat them to the finish line over a measured distance, a measured time, or a measured number of laps. That's why I don't like it when NASCAR adds laps to get a green, white checker finish. I don't like that kind of stuff. So why all of a sudden is it open to interpretation? All you have to do, and this isn't just Formula One, this is IndyCar, NASCAR, even your little neighborhood speedway, Delaware Speedway or Sauble, whatever it is. All you have to do is enforce your rule book. Enforce it fairly, enforce it consistently. The minute you don't, you have chaos. I don't care who you are. I don't care where you are on the points. If you do something illegally, I'm going to penalize you for it, but you got to stand your ground. And unfortunately, Michael Massey and the guys up in the decision-making, whatever that thing is, don't do that. It's not consistent. So it's tough to answer the question about whether I don't know whether Lewis got an unfair advantage there, but if it had been earlier in the season with somebody else, he probably would have been penalized. But because the rule enforcement has been so inconsistent, it's tough for you to get a theory on whether or not that foul should have been called or shouldn't have been called, because you don't know what the hell these guys are going to decide from one race to the next.
Yeah, that's the thing, right?
Question? I think
no, you absolutely answered the question, and I agree. And what I would say there, because in the purest form of it, you're trying to outrace the other guy.
Correct.
And there are people that have a lot of problems, and I understand, with the way Max drives. He's too aggressive. He's got the nickname.
So. You think he's too aggressive? I don't think he is.
No, but lots of people do. And the reason I like him is I think
aggressive, though.
Well, yeah, that's the name of the game to me, right? Like he reminds me of the way Earnhardt drove in NASCAR. And my dad was a big Earnhardt guy. That's why I love Max. But people say he's too aggressive. He dive bombs too late. I don't think he did that in this instance. He put his car in the best place in the apex of that turn on the racing line. And Lewis could have either crashed into him. He could have done that.
He didn't want to do.
He didn't want to. So what he did was he ran off onto a paved part of the track, which they got to get rid of these runoff areas. If Lewis's car, which we all agree is the best one,
was at the end, not all season though.
Not all season. They have problems in really hot places. They seem to have really big problems on turns. Yeah. But straightaway speed, he's got the best car. So if he does, then why not just relinquish that place there and use the might of your engine, which has been the best engine, and really F1 has tailor-made this hybrid era, which we are, at least in this iteration, exiting as of next year, almost tailor-made for Mercedes, because they spend $250 million more every year on their car. So if your car is the best, why are you running off the track when a guy beat you into the apex of the turn, stayed in the race boundaries, and gained first place fairly? So I understand why everybody's frustrated with the way the race ended. I'm frustrated with the way the race ended. I think the race director has too much power. I think the rule book needs to be redone. However, I have, with my bias hat on here again, a really, really hard time feeling sorry for Mercedes, for Toto Wolff, and for Lewis, who I respect. Whether you want to argue he's the greatest of all time, I still think Schumacher is, but I digress. I have a hard time feeling bad for a team that has won 7 straight constructors titles, now 8, I believe. Lewis has won 5 straight world titles, and they constantly bend the rules. And the one time where, albeit it was a giant explosion, a really big pie in their face, the one time they get a pie in the face, we've got to lodge complaints. I understand, but I have a hard time feeling sorry for Mercedes. And the one word I'll bring up to you, Eric, and I want your take on it, is Silverstone. That's the only thing that I have to say to that, because he took Max out in a dirty fashion. And if Max had stayed in that race, it wouldn't have even come down to Abu Dhabi, because Max would have won a race earlier. Yeah.
Well, I think it circles. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and your sentiment and your angle on this is not new, and it certainly isn't unique, and a lot of people agree with you. I don't know whether I totally do, but
I understand. Yep.
You have to understand. I think it circles back. Well, 2 things. One, it's easy enough for us to sit here and sip our drinks and make all kinds of post-race analysis about, oh, this in the corner and this in the apex. All of this is happening at extremely high velocity in split seconds, and decisions are made in a hair's breadth of a fraction of a second on whether or not that's the right move. Okay? So, we're questioning what drivers' decisions are made on the racetrack as they're out there competing. I don't think we'd make a lap in one of these cars, let alone an entire race of 57 laps. So, it's easy for us to analyze this. But I think what you're talking about here and what I am trying to tackle circles back to what I just said about consistent, fair enforcement of the rules.
Yes.
It doesn't matter whether it's Max Verstappen or Lewis Hamilton or Esteban Ocon or Giovinazzi or any of those guys, Latifi, Stroll, anybody in that field. If there's a mistake made and an error made and a foul made, it should be enforced no matter who it is, no matter where it is, and no matter what is at stake by making a decision. The minute you start to leave it to interpretation, then you're going to get accused of playing favorites, and it addresses your concern about the first time Mercedes gets a pie in the face, they're whining about it. There was a lot at stake at the end of that race. But all of this is alleviated, you guys, if you remember one simple thing. It's an automobile race, and you're supposed to beat the other guys to the finish line over a measured distance. The minute you stop enforcing the rules fairly, and the other important word is consistently, then you run into the problems that we are discussing here. You take away all that gray area, all that second guessing, all the anger. It was supposed to be one of Formula One's finest moments. Lewis Hamilton winning a record 8th championship to break Schumacher's record to become the greatest of all time. And Schumacher, a lot of fans didn't want to see that, but instead all we got was anger and confusion. That doesn't seem to be a very good ending to any kind of a championship, let alone this one, where there was the biggest global worldwide television audience that Formula One has ever seen because of the explosion of this. All of this gets taken away when you don't enforce the rules consistently and you don't enforce them fairly. The minute you start to go back to that, make the rules simple, make sure everybody understands. Don't say I'm going to leave the lap cars there and then 30 seconds later take them out of there because some Christian Horner on the radio said we got to get rid of these lap cars. Right. Whoa, what are you doing? Stop doing that. That's not fair enforcement of the rules. And I think all of this consternation and ranting and raving is taken away, and all you got to do is do something KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. Enforce your rules and enforce them fairly and enforce them consistently. You take away all of these problems.
E.T., we always let you rant about something every time you're on, and I'm going to give you a little pulpit here to rant.
I've already been on the
No. This is something that I've been watching and taking in on your Facebook. What did you think of the Sky Sports guys and their attire?
Oh God!
And then I want Ryan's opinion.
Oh, and then
for the younger generation.
I put that up there. These guys look like they just got off a bad bus trip to nowhere. They're shirts untucked, t-shirts with shirts untucked over top, jeans on, sneakers on. You are commentating on a worldwide audience of millions and millions of people. Sponsors spend billions of dollars every year on this thing. It is supposed to be the pinnacle of auto racing on the face of this planet, and you look like it just came in from cutting the flicking grass. You look like a bunch of slobs. You look like a bunch of hack amateurs. And that's not right, because Martin Brundle is a very smart guy, former driver. Nico Rosberg is there as a former champion. And I had some people saying, oh, well, it's part of the charm of Formula One to look all casual. They want to attract a younger audience. What a pile of hooey. What a pile of junk. Look like a pro. And you know what it is? Improper attire. And I rant about this with people wearing hats in restaurants, backwards with T-shirts and ripped jeans in nice restaurants. You know what it is? Improper. And I'm not attired here the way I should be. And I admit that. It's a show of respect. When you're not attired like a pro, to me, it's a sign of disrespect. And again, my attire notwithstanding.
That's okay. I was just going to say, I want Ryan's opinion as the younger generation on this.
Yeah,
and what he thought
you know what? I don't get this. What value is there in the slob vote Look like a pro. You don't have to be in a suit and tie, although the commentators generally are. Even Crofty, though, isn't in a shirt and tie. But you watch IndyCar and NASCAR, the guys up top are all wearing shirts and ties. You're there representing a series that attracts a global audience with a whole lot of money that sponsors are. What do we, nobody gets the slob vote. Have some respect. Give them a nice golf shirt with Sky Sports on it, with a pair of slacks, so you don't look like you just came in from, I don't know, cleaning out the eaves trough. It's something that's always bugged me. And, I'm sort of casual with this, but I will not go anywhere when I'm representing Raceline or representing Subaru or General Tire, any of my sponsors, without a shirt on, a Raceline shirt, and sometimes a tie. Mm-hmm. It's respect, guys. That's all it is. Dress like a pro. Don't dress like a slob. Have some respect for Dems.
Ryan?
End of rant.
Well, I'll start by saying that I don't think your attire is disrespectful for this show, ET.
It's my wife's alignment shop, so it's a shameless plug for us.
Oh, that's good.
Perfect.
I got no problem with that
or anything. And I thought, I'm
that's okay.
Pot calling the kettle black here,
No, but you're part of the crew here, and I mean this show is laid back. We're shooting the what about sports.
And that's your parameter.
That's right? What this is. We're not at the track, though. We're not in Abu Dhabi, and we're not on the Sky Sports Network. So I actually kind of agree with you, ET. Like, at the end of the day, I'm going to watch no matter what. If they showed up naked, I'd still watch. I mean,
I wouldn't.
Well, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, Jensen Button looks like a pretty fit guy. I don't know.
Oh, they're all pretty fit.
They are, yeah. They have to be to get in those cars. But
that's
no, I do agree though, because I mean, F1 has always been the race series more than any other that screams prestige, dripping money, high fashion. Monaco is the crown jewel. Everybody's out on the yachts.
Global championship. Yeah.
Yes, global championship. There's drivers from all over the place.
That's right.
I actually don't disagree with your sentiment. Here's what I want to say, because enough about talking about the attire. Let's talk about tires and racing again. I want your opinion on some of the things that F1 could do better. Now they're moving into new cars. They're going to 18-inch tires. They're going to be changing the cars. They're putting cost caps in. I agree with all that. Good. The Pirelli tires, for the fact of the matter, they suck. They've been inconsistent throughout the use of them. I think they're garbage. I like the bigger wheel. I like the look of the new cars. I agree with the cost cap and all that. Fine. That's good. I wonder what your opinion is on this. They've got to get rid of, and they say they're going to, Ross Brawn said, they're going to get rid of the direct line to the race director from the team walls. Thank God. They've got to shrink the rule book by about half and make things black and white and consistently do it. Mm-hmm. The other thing that they need to do is stop allowing teams like Mercedes and in the past the Ferraris of the world from overspending to such a gross amount on their car, where the Williams and the Alfa Romeos of the world can't even keep up. They're 45 seconds behind everybody.
That's right.
And, it just bothers me that they have all of these finicky little rules that pop up every now and again, and then you see it again later. Like, you'll remember we were talking about Lewis running off the track. You'll recall 2019, the Canadian Grand Prix at the part of the river run of the course. Vettel went off the track, came back on unfairly, and had to give Lewis the place back, and he was really upset about it. That was going to be his first race win in a couple of years, and he lost. It just bothers me that they have all of these things that happen where it just doesn't make sense to me. And
it's
I
up
don't
to interpretation. And again, it's unfair rule enforcement. And it's tough. It's tough when your rule book is so complicated and so convoluted, but it gets back to this idea that the race director has to have an idea of what the rules are, but enforce them consistently and fairly. It's so simple, boys and girls, moms and dads. It doesn't need to be some huge brain drain where everybody gets upset about it. Just enforce the rules, whether it's Lewis Hamilton or anybody else. Again, I know I'm sounding repetitive, but you take away all of that stuff when you enforce the rules consistently. I like what they're doing with the cars. The one thing that gets me is that we're into this debate, and we could do a whole show on this, and it's not necessarily racing. But this insistence by the environmentalists and these short-sighted politicians that we're all going to be battery-powered in conveyances by 2030. And what are we going to do with all the gasoline-burning cars? The hybrid technology in Formula One, to me, is brilliant, and why the automakers aren't really looking to expand and exploit that technology is amazing to me. I mean, they use kinetic energy recovery systems. They use braking energy to help charge the batteries, which assist the gasoline engine. My wife drives a hybrid automobile where the gasoline engine charges the batteries. When the batteries are full, the engine gets shut off. It's not emitting any pollution, and it runs on the batteries like a great big bloated golf cart. Why isn't that technology being utilized? So, I mean, I like this idea of simplifying things, taking all those little barge boards and all those little aerodynamic fiddly-boos and wings and fins and things on the front that break off every time somebody rubs into somebody else. Doing away with some of that, taking away some of the downforce, putting some of the control of the cars back, and that's good. I don't know, in answering your question a few seconds ago, you're always going to have teams like Mercedes and Ferrari and Red Bull that are going to spend upwards of $1 billion to put 2 race cars on a racetrack for a season, unless they do some serious capping to try and end that gulf, that huge schism between the top 2 teams. Used to only be 1, you remember? Now it's 2. It's Red Bull and it's Mercedes. And then you got a bit of a gap. And and every once in a while, you'll see somebody funky on the podium that hasn't been there before. But until they do some serious spending cuts, serious ones that right across the board, you're not going to see that change. And again, you're going to get an argument from those purists out there who say, well, all the high-priced gizmos and all the technology gives Formula One its charm, you see. It's one of the reasons why it's up here and the rest of them are down here. It's because of all the technology and all the money that they spend. I don't know. I don't know whether that's true or not. I don't think it gives it any charm when it's the same guys winning all the time. And now, let me take it one step further. You've got 2 teams battling, and it used to be only one, Ferrari and Schumacher, and he used to get the pole for every race, win just about every race. Every race was done in the first turn, and the championship was done by the middle of June. How lousy was that? Now we have 2 teams competing, but we need more. And we have a serious spending cap formula in there. I don't think you're ever going to see that change. I don't think people will live long enough to see a change.
I don't disagree. I mean, I guess at least in some respects, Schumacher early on before Ferrari really hit their stride had Hakkinen pushing him a little bit. But it's fair. Here's the other thing that I want to run by ET and Clarky, I'll let you run something by him if you want after this, because this is the other thing that I think is an issue.
Better let him in. He's going to get mad.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm kidding.
I want your opinion on this. I think that the race schedule has gotten too long. 22 races, it feels obscene to me. Yeah. I would rather see it at 16, 17. And I'd love your opinion on this too. I think another big problem that they have is they've gotten a little too big for their britches in respect to the tracks, because at least 6 or 7 of the tracks, including Abu Dhabi, which they made changes to from last year, suck. They suck. Yeah. Some of these tracks are awful. And that's
Saudi Arabia is too narrow for one thing.
There are way too many tracks on this circuit where it's nearly impossible. There's like 2 places on the track you can pass people, and DRS plays a factor in that too. So what's your opinion on that? Getting rid of some of these tracks and getting rid of DRS. I think it's goofy.
It's gimmicky, isn't it? And a lot of people that agree with that. But I will put it to you this way. The reason why there are so many races, and there'll be a record number of races next year, the reason why there are so many, and don't go by this year and last year, we just finished racing and we're ready to open Christmas presents. That doesn't normally happen. It's because of COVID.
Yes.
The reason they're in these places with some of these questionable tracks, these new ones in the Middle East and the Far East, especially the Middle East, is because that's where the manufacturers need to go to sell cars.
Yeah.
Period.
Yep.
Full stop. It's the reason why they're going to put another Grand Prix in the United States. They sell an awful lot of Mercedes in the United States, an awful lot of Hondas, an awful lot of Ferraris. They sell them in China too. They sell them in the Middle East and the Far East. And that's the reason why the schedule is as long as it is because that's where the sponsors who pay the bills, that's where they want to go. Exactly, Clarky. It's scratch.
Can they just make the tracks good then at least?
Well,
because the tracks stink. Russia is terrible. Abu Dhabi's terrible. Yeah. The Vietnam track looks terrible. Zandvoort is terrible.
Because they want them to look good. They want them to look good on camera because that's good for tourism.
Yay.
And in Canada, and I don't know what it is in the Middle East, but you can get tourism money if you look pretty on camera because it's going to drive people to go there, right? And then the other problem is that when you run some of these, like Silverstone you mentioned, and some of these tracks in England, Germany, France, Italy, they were built back when the cars were half as powerful.
Yeah.
And nowhere near as fast. And the reason why you don't get a lot of passing is because there's no time. The cars have overpowered the racetrack. And you watch these guys, they're so fast, there's no room to pass because it's too fast, it's too quick. And the cars, have outgrown the parameters of these racetracks.
I agree.
So unless you're going to dig them all up and start again and come up with some kind of a blueprint on what a perfect track is, I don't know where you go with it. But that's the one catalyst behind the reason why you're in all of these different countries all of a sudden at some of these dumb racetracks is because that's where the manufacturers need to go to sell product. Period. Full stop.
Yep.
ET, before we let you go, I just wanted to get your opinion on a couple other sports. Of course, you used to be the voice of the Leafs. And, well, maybe I'll ask you a question on the Leafs later, but
that's cool.
It wasn't a great day for Lewis Hamilton or the Hamilton Tiger Cats on Sunday.
Clever, Clarky. No.
What do you think? Like, did you watch the game? What's your thoughts? A great cup, very popular. A lot of people watching, of course. And I thought a bonehead play.
That was a great segue. You're an old pro radio guy, I can tell you. I always have had, I don't want to say a soft spot for the CFL. We're big NFL fans. I mean, our family had season tickets to the Bills, and my wife is leading her football pool, believe it or not. My daughter,
nice,
and her husband are NFL experts, and they sit there on the phone talking about this guy, that guy. Katie and Janice could do their own radio show on the NFL, and why this guy is terrible and why you shouldn't draft that guy, and whether or not Josh Allen has an offense he can work with, blah blah. Anyway, to your question. I've always had a soft spot for the CFL, and
me too.
Yeah, and we, the Argo.
And I'm an Argo fan. So.
Yeah, and that's cool. And we do the show out of CHML in Hamilton when COVID allows us to get in there. So I have a soft spot for the Tiger Cats, and we had some family friends that played for the Tiger Cats in their history. Such a shame that you had a packed house for the Grey Cup game on national television, and you couldn't pull it off. You took a knee. What? Was that 1 point could have been the difference between winning and losing. It's interesting to watch these guys on a much larger field with a football that's twice as fat as an NFL one and watch these guys work. And there's a lot of talent out there. But man, oh man, you had a perfect opportunity to cement the CFL, in the GTA or the 8G, whatever it's called with Hamilton and everything else, and you couldn't pull that off, and you let Winnipeg walk off with their second in a row. We watched most of the fourth quarter and all of the overtime, which I like better than the NFL's overtime. I like that, the way they do it better. But just a shame that the Cats couldn't pull that off because I was sure pulling for them. I really was.
Yeah, it was a tough one. They just had, I don't know if you can call it the same stroke of bad luck that Lewis Hamilton had, but yeah, it's 1999 still lingering over
didn't
the
decide
city.
The game, but
it did not.
It did in the F1 race. It didn't in the football.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah. Yep, Clarky, you got
one more. One more on the Leafs. What, like you were, as you know. And Ryan, I follow Erik on Facebook, and he was just like me at the beginning of the year. Everyone should have been fired. Everyone should have. They should have traded everybody. Well, I looked at the standings last night, ET, and the Leafs are number one. Now they have some games that they've played more than the other teams, but winning percentage they're slightly behind. However, they're playing pretty well, aren't they? And Austin Matthews has got her going. If this guy keeps that pace up, he's going to blow by the guys ahead of him and win another rocket.
Yeah, and their back line, their back end looks another rocket. The back end looks better.
Yep.
Morgan Rally is having a very nice season. All of a sudden, Liljegren looks good. Sandin looks good. Campbell is, looks like he may be the goaltender in answer there. And Young Wall in him, and the guy that got hurt just came back.
Mrazek.
They're coming back. There's a lot of hope there. You're getting secondary scoring. The Tavares is having the season that he should have had last year. It looks like he's found another gear. But you know what the refrain is now? They're going to have themselves a spectacular regular season, but unless they can push the clutch in and find a higher gear in the playoffs and can at least get through the first flipping round, all of this is going to be wasted again.
You're right. You're absolutely right.
Watching them, I love watching what they're doing. I'm an idiot. I think they should win every game,
Me too.
That's unrealistic, and I get upset when they don't, especially when I think they're not trying. But they're at the top of the heap right now, looking good. They have got to find a way to carry this potency into the postseason. And if they don't, to me, it's all going to be wasted again.
Yeah, I think there's a difference this year, and maybe I've said it before, but they're playing better defensively. Their goals against average is way down in the upper echelon, and they've never been there. They're winning games 2-1. They're like third in the league in shutouts, which they've never been. I just see a different pace of play, and I think my boss here at the car dealership in town, Larry Hudson's, is played hockey all his life, coach. He went to a game and he said he's never seen a Leaf team play this well in their own zone. Hey, you know what? Again, the pressure is going to be on in that first round, and they better perform, or they got to blow it up. And I'm Ryan. I'm not going to ask them a question that I've asked everyone else. I'm done with that. But I just think it's their year, and
I hope so.
Do you think the NHLers will go to the Olympics?
I don't think they should.
No, I don't think so either.
I just don't think they should. I mean, you're at the whim of the government. They may quarantine you for how long?
Yeah,
3 to 5 weeks.
But 3 to 5 weeks.
It's risky what's happening with COVID and this new variant. Just to start there,
it is scary.
I don't think they need to, and I think it's too risky. And I support them if they decide not to go. I really do. And we'll see what happens. I mean, the Leafs are looking okay, but I just have one request. I want to see them win another cup before they put me in the ground. I watched them win cups, and I'm old enough to remember the mid-'60s cups, and I'm old enough to remember certainly there's a 67 cup, and they haven't won one since then.
I don't remember it. I was one.
Okay.
But I want to see one. I want to live it.
70, and thinking about looking at all these old pictures in the old classic games, and watching Horton and Brewer and Bond, and look at that. Well, see. Yeah, I don't have any of those. But
you'll get one. You'll put one on your butt when they win the cup.
One on my butt. Maybe I will. If they win, that's a deal. If they win, I'll have one on my thumb. You heard it here first, folks.
Perfect.
We'll take you to the tattoo parlor, my friend.
You're going to get one. Just make sure it's a good one. That's all.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, I did it when my team won the cup. I hope it happens for you guys because it is a lot of fun, man. You're on top of the world, right? It's the best. And you know what, ET? You got a lot of good years left. Shame on them if they can't get you one.
Exactly.
Honestly,
it's coming.
We appreciate you doing this, brother. It was a great breakdown of the end of a thrilling F1 season, despite the controversy at the end. And hey, before we let you go as well, got to mention, I mean, you've been doing Raceline Radio a long time, and next year is going to be a very special year for you guys, isn't it?
30 years on the air consecutively as Canada's National Radio Motorsport Authority. It's long form niche broadcasting, and Clarky knows what I mean by long form. And to have sponsors like Subaru, who've been there from the very first syllable that we ever uttered on the air with Raceline, to cover the sport on radio with a Canadian slant. And we were lucky that we hit it when Scott Goodyear was doing heroic things at Indianapolis. And for the population size that we have, we continue to produce some of the world's best auto racers. So we don't have to go very far to interview the best, and we're lucky that way. Mm-hmm. Lucky to have Subaru, lucky to have General Tire. Fast Eddie is back on with us, Ed Hackinson, and Canadian Tire Motorsport Park. They've all been sponsors of ours. We've been very, very fortunate, blessed, if you want to use that word, to be on the air for 30 years. So next year is our 30th anniversary. The sponsors have already told us a nice Christmas present. They're all coming back next year. Nice. The network is strong. We have got stations. I've got Rogers stations, Bell stations, Core stations, Blackburn stations, on the network. So we're good. We're healthy. And I'm probably going to be like, Paul Harvey. They're going to find me dead at the mic one day in my 90s doing the show. But
with a Leaf tattoo on your butt.
Tattoo on the other cheek. I'll put Raceline Radio on there. Yeah, it's been a wild ride. It's not going to fade away anytime soon. We've had a lot of fun doing it, and thanks to a lot of really good program directors and a lot of really good fans coast to coast, we survive into year 30.
Absolutely, my friend. Well, congratulations. We're blessed to call you a friend of this show. We love having you on, and we'll have you back on soon. I mean, winter testing's around the corner, NASCAR back around the corner, the Indy around the corner. It'll be here before you know it. Erik Thomas of Raceline Radio, guys. We really appreciate this, brother. Thanks for doing this.
Merry Christmas, you guys. Take care. Talk to you soon.
Back here here on Instigating with Clarkey and Drury. We appreciate our friend Erik Tomas of Raceline Radio. Boy, 30 years on the air. Pretty incredible stuff to break down the end of the F1 season. We're now very pleased to be joined by one of our great sponsors, our friend Travis Stewart of See the Game, and of course, our friends at the Listowel Vision Center. Travis, how you doing, my friend? Welcome back.
I'm doing good. It's great. It's great to be on here again. Appreciate
Travis, you sound great. You got a new microphone or something?
Yeah, I did. I'm a little more prepared for this one. Hopefully it'll sound a little better.
Oh, you sound great.
Yeah, you sound fantastic, man. You're fitting right into the podcasting crowd here. And on that note, I know when we first had you on, and remember, everybody, you can find our show on YouTube and, of course, all the best podcast apps to hear what Travis was talking about in the first episode that we had him on from a couple weeks ago. What are we talking about today? Because See the Game, you guys are doing neurosport training. It's very specific and focused to help athletes build up their neurosport intensity and their abilities to see the game. And tell us a little bit about what we want to learn about today.
Perfect. Yeah. So last time we kind of went over the who, the what, and the where. We're going to kind of finish it off with the when, why, and how, and then just kind of talk about the team that we have at See the Game, because I realized I didn't even mention that the last time. So we'll kind of fill you in on who is involved in this business. But to start, we're going to go over kind of like when this training is going to occur. So with most athletes, time is a limitation throughout their season, especially when they're student athletes, which is a lot of the population that we're working with, because they're going to have school for 8 months of the year. So there's very fine line between doing their training and not impeding on anything else. So kind of what we're looking at is working in their off season, doing weekly training sessions for about 6 weeks. Our training sessions are going to begin with an assessment of their neurocognitive skills. And then after we complete the program, we're going to do another assessment just to test the progress over that time. Throughout the time, like between sessions in their training program, we're going to be doing some at-home drills with them. So we'll have take-home kits, some programs that they can potentially use at home, whatever is going to benefit them the most. And then throughout their season, we let them, use those take-home drills just so they can maintain those skills. So they don't lose them over the season. And then the next off season, we would come back, reevaluate them, make another program for them, just to ensure that each year and each season they're improving. And then, so why we train this, it's kind of it's a very new thing. And I always kind of describe it. Basically, your brain is just another muscle that you're supposed to be working on. So the reason you train this is because you want your brain to process information faster. Just like if you're training your muscles, you're trying to get stronger and faster. So that's kind of the, easy way to explain what we're doing. But when you look at some of the studies, there's limited studies on it because it's a fairly newly developing field. But when you do look at the studies, you're going to see a lot of performance benefits through people who have done these kinds of training programs. And then there's a lot of stories of pro athletes who have access to this training, who are getting some major performance benefits. A great example of this was Braden Holtby. This kind of came out, I think, around 2014, 2015. When he was playing with the Washington Capitals, there was some things. I think one of the corners, he was consistently missing goals, or letting goals go by him. And what happened was he worked with an optometrist to kind of get an assessment. They realized this. They gave him some training to help him to expand kind of his peripheral vision, so he can actually catch those pucks that are going past him. And then give him, I think it was 2 or 3 seasons, they won the Stanley Cup. So there's a lot of stories of these athletes who use this just to gain that extra edge. And then what we're kind of trying to do is basically just make the 1 second difference to just push them further past their competition. Because, when you're looking at, thousands of athletes, most of them are doing the same type of training. They're doing their physical training and their sports specific stuff. So if you really want to differentiate yourself from your competition, you got to do something extra. So we're trying to provide that extra. And then another thing is just maintaining athlete safety. So concussions are huge in sports. It's a very terrible issue that we're dealing with, and science is developing to help stop concussions. But with this type of training, we're working on preventing concussions because we want the athletes to be able to perceive everything that's going on around them so they don't get blindsided by a hit or something happens that they didn't see. They get an unexpected injury, they get a concussion, that type of stuff. We're trying to make sure that we keep the athletes safe. And then lastly, how we do this. So like, what are we actually doing? We're going to go over a little bit, probably in later appearances, on some of the technology we're going to be using, like these Blaze Pods right here. They're a pretty cool tool that we'll showcase in further episodes, but we're just using a variety of technology and pieces of equipment to assess and train the neurocognitive skills. That's how we're doing it. There's a whole science based on it. But we'll kind of go over some of the technology that we're using because it's pretty cool stuff.
It really is, Travis. And I mean, I like, first of all, that you referenced my boy Braden Holtby picking he's somewhere in that Stanley Cup montage. And look, Clarky, the photos are in color. And when he started using them, you could actually see it in one of the NHL docuseries, him after a game hitting those colored pads behind you there for our viewers. And that same year he won the Vezina Trophy. And then you're right, a few years later they won the Stanley Cup. And hey, we just had our friend Erik Tomas of Raceline Radio on talking about Formula One. I know if people watch the Netflix series, you can see many of the drivers using those pads. And I mean, hey, you talk about neurocognitive ability and being able to make split-second decisions. Race car drivers, that's life and death, isn't it, for them? So it is super interesting. And I can't wait to dig into more of the technology with you, because you guys are using really cool stuff, Travis.
Yeah, no, it's really cool. That documentary was great. And it was cool seeing some of the stuff that we're doing on, some of their, high level athletes. And it's pretty cool because we actually had the opportunity to work with an up and coming race car driver in like the karting scene. Wow. So he's not old. Yeah. He's not old enough to actually like be in like the full cars, but he's in like the tiny karts, and they're still going, like, he's like 14, I think. And they're going like 120 to 160 on these little karts. So like, that was kind of the main thing. Like, we're trying to keep this kid alive. Like, we want to make sure he's seeing everything, because if he makes a mistake, as you said, it's life and death. So that's like a huge part of the training we're doing is performance, but also just making sure that they can leave their sport and have a life afterwards,
Yeah, and that's hugely important, the concussion thing. And I'm excited to dig into the specific technology. We've, of course, seen it. Clarky strapped on the VR headset and tried to stop some...
Coolest thing ever. It is absolutely... I can't wait till we talk about that.
It's
the coolest thing ever. We'll talk about another episode, I'm sure.
100%. It's going to be great. Little teaser there for everybody to stay tuned for our appearances here that we have Travis on. For more Neurosport insight and to see the game, make sure to check them out. They're on Instagram. You can check them out over at the Between the Lines campus right here in Listowel, Ontario as well. Travis, great appearance, brother. It's good to see you. Merry Christmas, and we'll talk to you in the new year, man.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Travis.
Wrapping things up here on Instigating with Clarky and Drury. Clarky said, you didn't realize we were rolling, did you? But you weren't.
I wasn't on camera yet, so we're fine.
It doesn't matter. We are brought to you, as always, by our friends at Cool Bet, the Listowel Squash Courts. Check them out on Facebook. Become a member.
I'm still sitting. I'm still number 2, by the way.
In second, and we're also...
I played Jacob again.
You played Jacob again. It didn't go well.
No. It was closer, though. It was closer. It was closer.
I even watched you. I came and watched you the other day.
Yeah, that's about all you've done. You need to get on the court next time.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I'm really busy, Like,
I know. You just told me you're really busy playing video games. Yeah, you're really busy.
Yeah, I'm busy playing video games. I'm busy being an OHL commentator. I don't know if you know that, and also hosting this great show where you can find it. Also, hey, remember our friend Travis was just on. We're also brought to you in part by See the Game in the Listowel Vision Care Center. Those guys are the best. Remember, you can find us on all the best podcast apps. We are on YouTube as well. Check out our YouTube channel. Follow us on social media at Instigating Pod. Hey, we're back with our friends on Whiteman TV as well. Friday nights at 8, Sunday nights at 9. So remember that. Before we wrap up, though, Clarky, we brought this up with our friend Erik Tomas of Raceline Radio. Congrats on 30 years, ET. just about the Olympics and really before we touch on that, just the COVID situation within sports again. This new variant is running wild. It seems to be a little less symptom driving as other variants we've seen. A lot of the athletes that are testing positive are asymptomatic, which is good. We're not seeing guys go to the ICU, but it's still a concern. There's a ton of teams that have COVID scares. The Leafs aren't playing Calgary. We're doing this on Thursday, the 16th. The Leafs should be in Calgary right now. They are not because of COVID. A ton of other teams. I can tell you the OHL has a rash of, this is the final weekend before Christmas. There is a rash of games that have been canceled or postponed, I should say. What's just your opinion on that right now? Because boy, oh boy, the amount of games getting postponed, that's putting pressure on this Olympic hope.
Yeah, it's certainly running rampant, as you said. It seems like the cases are like doubling every couple of days now, which is not a good thing for sure. I'm so done with this. Like, I really am. Like, I'm careful. I got vaccinated, but I'm just so done with it. I just want it to go away, as everyone obviously does. And I just want to hear what is happening with this variant. Like, if it's not as severe, if it's just like not even like if it's a cold, like let's get on with life here. Like, let's figure this out. I don't know. I just think that we need to move on, but I don't know. It's affecting everyone again, and it's not good. And the NHL, I don't think they're going to shut down. I don't think they're going to get to that. We now have found out that in Ontario anyway, so the Leafs and Senators will have to go to half the capacity of the rinks. So that's going to hurt. There's no question that's going to hurt. And I don't think that's going to happen down in the States anytime soon. They seem to have moved on and don't really care near as much. But yeah, it's out of control. And like when you see, okay, who did Calgary play? Boston. Oh, now there's some players on Boston, and it's definitely floating around pretty quickly. But if it's not as severe, like, what do we have to, I don't want to say, what do we have to worry about? But if it's not as severe, let's maybe lessen the restrictions. Well, that's all I ask. But
I understand what you're saying. And hey, guys, we're not doctors. We're not giving you advice here or anything, but you are expressing the inner wonder of a lot of us who have followed the rules, have got double vaxxed. Hey, I'll get my booster dose too.
I signed up for it already. So.
I get the flu shot every year. Like, I don't care. Yeah. I'll get a shot every 2 weeks if you tell me I need to. Whatever. But the big question on everybody's mind is, where is the break point where we just go, this virus exists now, you're protected against it, you're not going to end up in the hospital, you might catch it, and where is the break point where we treat it like the flu or whatever? And I know it isn't. Guys, I'm not a doctor. I don't work for the CDC or the WHO. I don't know anything about viruses, the science behind them, and how they spread. I don't. But that is a valid question of how many vaccines, how many doses, at what point, where so many of the positive cases that we're seeing in athletes anyway are asymptomatic. Where is the point where you go, okay, well then what date on the calendar do we hit? And I know they can't answer that question, the powers that be, when this is just a normalized thing. I don't know.
Yeah, and when you talked about the Olympics, and we did with Erik Tomas, and here's the deal: I don't think the players are going to China. I really don't. But let's just say they do. Ryan, would have they announced yet if fans would be able to go to the games in China?
I cannot tell you that. I
don't know.
Don't know, because so here, focus has been: are they even going? Right. I think that Chinese citizens and the entourages of teams will be able to go. I really don't know.
No, but I mean fans. Will fans be in the stands? Have they announced that? I haven't heard that. Anyway, but here's something I heard the other day, and I thought about it, and I'm like, that's a pretty darn good idea. Play it over here.
The hockey portion.
Yeah. Just do the hockey portion of the Olympics over here. Give them the money, give them all the gate, whatever the rules were going to be in China, give it to them, but play it over here. I don't know.
I don't hate that idea. I can tell you who does, and it's China.
Well, of course, China will hate the idea, but it's either that or playing in front of nobody with nobodies.
If those are the options,
right?
Yeah, I completely
because they're not going to go to China. I don't think there's any way.
I agree in general, and I agree with that too. I think that we're seeing so many games get postponed now. Doesn't seem to be an end to it. There will be more games postponed next week and into the weekend. That 3-week gap you've left yourself all of a sudden looks like you might need that. And you know what?
Yeah.
The All-Star game might get canceled too. Just to save room. Yeah,
like, who cares?
All I'm saying is I agree. I just think that, it's like the rigidity we are seeing with this quarantining rule over there in China. And guys, again, I'm just a sports knucklehead. I'm not on the BBC. I'm not a political commentator.
No.
But what I do know is that China operates under a very different set of rules and guidelines than we do. And based on that, I just don't know that this is going to fly. And there's nothing I want more than Connor McDavid flying around in Beijing or wherever wearing that flag. I just don't see it happening this year, guys.
I certainly don't see it happening in China. I think the only hope for them to compete in this year's Olympics is if they move the venue to North America. But that would be precedent setting. That's for sure. It
would be weird. So. It would be weird.
But very weird. But
we're in a weird time, aren't we?
Yep.
We're in a weird time, aren't we? Absolutely. Okay. We really appreciate you guys listening to and watching the show. We're on all the best podcast apps. Visit us on YouTube. Watch the show with our friends on Whiteman TV Friday nights at 8, Sunday nights at 9. We're on the social media apps. We're all over Twitter and Facebook at Instigating Pod. Follow us there. We appreciate our sponsors, Cool Bet, the Listowel Squash Courts, and See the Game in the Listowel Vision Center. I'm Drury. That's Clarky. This has been another week of
Merry Christmas.
With Clarky and Drury. Merry Christmas. We're taking a break. We'll be back in 2022 for more Instigating. See you then.